Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Religious Education Initiative. This is week 17 of year 3, day 1. This is the week of Christmas. So, Merry Christmas. In this week between Christmas and the New Year, as our regular catechetical ministries are on a short break, we're going to take one more week to reflect on the wonder of the Lord's incarnation before continuing next week with the reading from Proverbs, and the following week with the next step in the story of Abraham and his family. So this week we will read the second chapter of St. Paul's epistle to the Hebrews, in which the apostle continues to develop his point about the Son of God and the distinction between the gospel and the message received from angels. We read the first chapter 2 weeks ago, so we're continuing with chapter 2. And the latter portion of this chapter, from verse 11 on, is the epistle reading for the 9th hour of the royal hours of Christmas. So, St. Paul has just established that this message that we have received in the church is greater than the message that came through the angels in the Old Testament. So he says, "Therefore we must pay greater attention to what we have heard, so that we do not drift away from it. For if the message declared through angels was valid, and every transgression or disobedience received a just penalty, how can we escape if we neglect so great a salvation? It was declared at first through the Lord, and it was attested to us by those who heard him, while God added his testimony by signs and wonders and various miracles, and by gifts of the Holy Spirit distributed according to his will. Now, God did not subject the coming world about which we are speaking to angels, but someone has testified somewhere, what are human beings, that you are mindful of them, or mortals, that you care for them? You have made them for a little while lower than the angels. You have crowned them with glory and honor, subjecting all things under their feet. Now, in subjecting all things to them, God left nothing outside their control. As it is, we do not yet see everything in subjection to them, that is, to human beings, but we do see Jesus, who for a little while was made lower than the angels, now crowned with glory and honor because of the suffering of death, so that by the grace of God he might taste death for everyone. It was fitting that God, for whom and through whom all things exist, in bringing many children to glory, should make the pioneer of their salvation perfect through sufferings. For the one who sanctifies, and those who are sanctified, all have one Father. For this reason Jesus is not ashamed to call them brothers and sisters, saying, I will proclaim your name to my brothers and sisters. In the midst of the congregation I will praise you. And again, I will put my trust in him. And again, here am I, and the children whom God has given me. Since, therefore, the children share flesh and blood, he himself likewise shared the same things, so that through death he might destroy the one who has the power of death, that is, the devil, and free those who all their lives were held in slavery by the fear of death. For it is clear that he did not come to help angels, but to help the descendants of Abraham. Therefore, he had to become like his brothers and sisters in every respect, so that he might be a merciful and faithful high priest in the service of God, to make a sacrifice of atonement for the sins of the people. Because he himself was tested by what he suffered, he is able to help those who are being tested. Now, this is appropriate for us to read in the week of Christmas. First of all, because the fathers have established this as one of the readings that we read. But why they establish it for us, why they set this aside, is that St. Paul here is reflecting on what is the purpose of the Lord's incarnation. Why is it that he has taken on flesh? Why is it that he has united himself with human nature? Why is it that he was born in Bethlehem? And the point is, well, it's easy to read this and say, oh, the point was so that he could suffer, so that he could die. But no, suffering and dying are also part of his purpose. His purpose is to raise us up, to elevate humanity, to reconcile us with himself, and to make us one with him, to actualize us as sons and daughters of the Father, to make us brothers and sisters to himself by adoption, although by nature we are so very far away from him. So, this calls to mind, since we're talking about Christmas, one of my favorite Christmas carols, because the theology in it is so good. And I'm thinking, of course, of Hark the Herald Angels Sing, and one of the later verses, which says that the Lord is born to raise the sons of earth, born to give them a second birth. We are called by the Lord's incarnation. We are recreated, refashioned, reborn as sons and daughters of God Most High, and we are reconciled with him. We are raised up. And what he says, even here, he quotes the Old Testament, affirming that God has subjected the coming world to the Son. He is crowning humanity with glory and honor, subjecting all things to humanity. And then he says, we don't yet see this, but we do see Jesus, who has all things subject to him. So this is not to say, yay, look at us, we human beings, we're going to be in charge of everything, rah, rah, rah. Is to say, the Son has taken on our nature, and as a human being, as the firstborn of all creation, as the firstborn of the new creation, all things are subjected to him. And we are called not just to be subjects, although we are, but to be brothers and sisters, to take part in this glory. So we have a high calling, a noble purpose. We are created and we are refashioned through the Lord's death and resurrection and coming baptism. We are refashioned to be partakers in the divine nature, to be part of the Lord's work of sanctifying and transforming and raising up the entire creation. We rejoice in the child born in Bethlehem. We marvel at God become flesh. But we are called, not just but we are called not just to stand at the door of the cave and marvel and then go away and leave and go back to our daily pursuits. We are called to carry with us, everywhere we go, the joy and the love and the life of the Son of God, who has become one with us. So, God bless you all. See you for day 2. Merry Christmas.